See, I believe some of us, although I'm not yet even 50, but a lot of us are unable to even advise because the future is moving so fast. So basically, make sure you own the future. Make sure you don't lose the future. Make sure you own it.
Firstly, I'd like to know that how does a typical day in your life go? And with the COVID restrictions in place, how do you manage to spend time with your family and your leisure time?
See, this it's a very good question, but things have been changing over time, right? So I will give two answers to this.
Sure.
One is how did my typical day go, and now I will answer how does my typical day go, and I think those two are different because there was a pre-COVID time and post-COVID time. So pre-COVID, I would usually start very early, spend a couple of hours, doing whatever, running, swimming, exercising, etc. Would start about half an hour after I wake up. Then I would get to office quite early. And then I would usually either be at office or I would be traveling, meeting people, making whatever decisions need to be made, etc. And then get home quite late. Maybe in the middle of the day or towards the end of the day, I might do another session of some exercise and get home quite late. And I had a lot of travel time. I had about 1.5 hours of travel time a day, in which time I would, be on the computer or taking calls or messaging, etc. And then when I would get home, I typically would get home by about 10:30. I would go to sleep very quickly after having dinner. I used to have a late dinner, which wasn't a very good habit. Now, how has that all changed? Well, the travel time has gone out of the picture. I start my day a little later than earlier, about a few hours later than earlier. Because I work, in Europe and I work Indian time. So my calls from Indian time perspective start about 10 o'clock or so. Whatever video calls, work, etc. It's still quite early from a UK perspective, but I'm done by about 2-3 o'clock. Because by 2-3 o'clock, it's 7:30, 8 o'clock in India. And I'm usually done by about that time. So then I have a huge afternoon and I do a lot of my exercise, etc. towards the evening. So in a way, the schedule's gone kind of, for a bit of a spin. So the early morning exercise part is largely out and it's become more of an afternoon thing. Now, that said, I will always maybe find 1 hour in between meetings and I would go and do some exercise in that time, or I would do some meditation at that time, etc. And those things I'm able to do. I also have children who are, about college age, etc. And like anybody from the IIT, you tend to be quite good in a few subjects, physics, maths, etc. So the kids lean on you for help in those things. Some kids lean on you a little more than others. So I think my son leans on me quite a bit. My daughter does not lean as much on me. So that also takes up a lot of time. But it's mostly towards the evenings. But yeah, that's what it's become. There's obviously more family time. Exercise time is largely intact. Work time is almost intact. Travel time is gone.
Right, sir. So, sir, did you also motivate your children to get into IITs, or you left it to them?
I don't motivate. I have a very different, I don't know, very different or not. I like to let people do what they want to do. It's very important for people to find out what they are good at. Everybody is different. Because somebody is your child does not mean they have to be exactly like you. There can be some inspiration, some learnings you can have from your life, which you can transfer to children. And sometimes there are similarities because of genetics, etc. So, for example, I can give you some examples. Both my children are very determined, but in slightly different ways, right? My daughter is extremely disciplined and meticulous since she was a child. So when she was very young, she started speaking in full sentences, which is very not like me. She's very articulate and all those things. Whereas my son, a lot like me, can do a lot in very short periods of time. They are somewhat different. My son is doing engineering, like me. It's from another college in the UK, but that is what it is. And but he wants to be an engineer for a very different reason. I wanted to be an engineer because I didn't know what else to do, or I wanted to be an engineer because I was good at maths or physics. Quite honestly, I said, okay, I don't know biology, so I can't be a doctor, so might as well become an engineer. That was the thinking in my time.
Right.
Whereas for my son, he's very, very clear he wants to be an automobile engineer and hopefully electrical vehicles. So he's extremely focused on that. My daughter, a bit like me, doesn't know what to do. So she's saying, I'll try and become an economist or something of that sort. But everybody is different, right? You have to give them the space to kind of, figure out what they are good at.
Right, sir. Absolutely. Sir, I was reading online that you are an avid sports person as well, and you are a Masters swimming champion. You have represented India at World Championship as well. So I have a couple of questions here. Like, firstly, how do you find time to pursue your hobby? And has this benefited you in your professional life as well?
So, Tushar, I have a very firm, first of all, my background, almost everybody in my family is from the army. And I too, after I was at IIT, I went and took the SSB exam. And I did very well in the exam and I was selected to join the army. It was just by that time, 8 months had already passed. And I was already in IIT, and somehow we decided to stay on at IIT. But I was quite, so I'm a lot, I think I'm more military type in my lifestyle than most people in the military are. But that is just the way it is. And so there is a affinity towards sports, there's an affinity towards outdoors, there's an affinity towards discipline. So for me, it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of necessity. If I don't exercise, or if I don't do some sport for a couple of days, I will start getting agitated and it will start impacting my work, because it's almost like, how do I put it? If you go to work, for 3-4 days without having a bath or without brushing your teeth, how would you feel? Something similar will start happening to me if I don't exercise. It's just, everybody's different again, right? But that's how I am. Because the family has been away, because the family was in Europe and I was in India, that gave me a lot of time. A little more time than earlier. So, a very simple question is, if I had to go to Masters and represent India or take part in the Ironman events, why did I not do that between the age of 25 to 40? Why did I only start doing it when I was 40?
Yeah.
Is it some kind of midlife crisis or something? No, it isn't that. It is just that is when I found time. And it may seem very strange because that's when I started a business as well. But, I started a business when I was about 35 or so, right? But they are both linked. And it takes about 4-5 years to get to the level where you start competing at international level, etc. So it takes a bit of time to kind of prepare yourself. But I only found the time now. I didn't have that much time earlier. Earlier I used to have maybe 1 hour a day. Now I get up to 3 hours a day. And once I have that time, I can take advantage of it. But no, it is not like I'm taking time out or anything. It is just, for me, they are both very intertwined.
Right. So, sir, how did you garner your interest in the financial services, and what led you choose this path of entrepreneurship and leaving your corporate job behind?
So I don't think I ever left my corporate job. I'm very atypical in being an entrepreneur. So I have been an entrepreneur at heart ever since I was at IIT. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So if somebody asked me, what do you want to do? I would always say I want to be an entrepreneur. But I also was a very middle class, mindset person. I did not want to take risks. I did not want to take financial risks. For me, having a salary was also very important. because my parents had always had a salary. And once you're in business, what you start understanding is cycles, that you invest for a year and then you make money in the next year, all that kind of stuff. Right. We, as I say, me at least, as somebody who came from an income family, could not understand that concept ever. They needed money that month, because without that they would start feeling very nervous. And that was my situation, at least till eBooker started, till Policybazaar started. But at some point, what happens is you find something which is so compelling in terms of must be done, that you say, okay, there's hardly any risk, or the bigger risk is not doing it. And to me, Policybazaar was that, right? So till Policybazaar, I have really been an employee all along, always drawn a salary. Every month, drawn a salary. It was only when I came to Policybazaar that I somehow said, look, this seems to be a no-brainer. This seems to be such a big no-brainer that there is no risk. So might as well just do it. Now I know that is very different from how a lot of other people would think. And maybe it also makes me less of an entrepreneur. But that is the truth. And for me, at some point, remaining in the corporate life became a bigger risk than not doing something so straightforward. Like India, middle class needed insurance. There was nobody willing to take, really focus on it and solve it.
Right.
And if you have that opportunity and you're in that space where you can be funded, things seem to be largely risk-free. So then why wouldn't you do it? The team was ready. See, the team was ready. The problem set was ready. The funding was ready. Now, why you wouldn't do it? I didn't see the risk. Of course, you didn't get a salary for 1 year or something. That's okay. That's not that big a risk.
Right, sir. So, sir, what were the challenges you faced while establishing Policybazaar as a unicorn?
So, Tushar, this is well documented.
Okay.
I somewhere don't like the word unicorn, because it's the notation is very different from what we are trying to do. We are a half mission, half business. We're trying to solve for insurance requirement of the middle class, which is a big problem in the country. We don't know if that's going to make us a unicorn. We know whoever solves it will become worth a lot, right? Whether it is 10 billion, 20 billion, 5 billion, 1 billion, half a billion, we don't know.
Right.
These valuations keep changing. Somebody could call us worth 5 billion. Somebody can call us worth 10 billion. Somebody can call us worth less than $1 billion. And we're certainly not a unicorn, right? If you look at it in those terms. And to us, beyond a certain amount, you don't need money. You need a certain amount. Beyond that, you don't need it. Beyond that, it is just vanity. I don't know what that number is for everybody, is different. But, I think beyond a certain amount, it becomes stupidity. I'm not the kind of person like, if I had all the money in the world, perhaps the most expensive thing I could think of buying is a very good cycle. I will never buy a very expensive car. I just won't. It's not me. So I think now the question you asked was, what are the challenges you faced? We faced a lot of challenges. When you try to change any industry, see, what are we all doing? There is a certain way in which business is done in any particular industry. You come in and you say you want to change that status quo. So what are you doing? You are essentially a revolutionary. You want to lead a revolution. Every revolution has some children. And the children of that revolution become the rulers of the next generation. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just let it pass. But if you want to do that, it's never going to be easy. You look at any revolution in the world. Any. It was never easy. In fact, sometimes not having a revolution is a bad thing. One of the reasons I believe, Indian democracy is sort of confused is because we got our independence relatively easily compared to many other countries. If it had been a harder fought freedom, we might have valued it much more. You see what I mean? The deeper the revolution, the stronger the positivity of the outcome. So to me, yes, it was a revolution. There were lots of pains. Those pains came from all points. Thankfully, for me, my own team was never the pain. Many times that becomes the biggest pain, right? That do you have the right people with you? That was never the pain. Our intent was not the pain. Our team's intent was not the pain. Other pains will always be there. If you expect, as I said, if you expect a revolution to happen today, if you want to change, I'm not saying you need to change IIT, but suppose you decide today that I want to change IIT as an institution. Whatever you decide to do, it can't be a painless process. It can't be an effortless process. There will be lots of challenges. So we're trying to change an industry. And I think that is what every startup tries to do, right? So it will have challenges.
Absolutely. Sir, a lot of students have this particular query. There are a lot of students at IIT who are budding entrepreneurs and have even started their startups while in college. So a lot of students ask that what is the ideal time to get started off with your venture? I mean, should we wait for graduation or do a master's? I mean, a lot of students have this question. So I would like if you could answer this.
There is no clear answer for this. When you think you're ready, when you think entrepreneurship is the right thing for you. Now, some of my friends started entrepreneurship the moment they came out of college. Some of them succeeded, some of them failed. But someone like me was never essentially a born entrepreneur, but became one much later. So I think people need to decide for themselves. What do they want to do? You shouldn't repent your own decisions. And once you know what you want to do, the earlier the better. So the advice I give because most of you guys right now who are doing the bachelors are about my children's age. My son is in first year, right? And the UK actually is 1 year older. So he's 19 years old. And my daughter is 17. So many of you must be 21 or so, right? 2021. So not very different. The advice I give my children is become an entrepreneur. Once you know what to do, even if you think you want to sell lemonade, get on with it as soon as possible. Because the world needs change. And entrepreneurs are the ones that drive that change. The more entrepreneurs we have, the more change we will have. And of course, do it with that purpose. And the good news is you can, for the first 4-5 years, just learn. You are learning things. Be careful of one thing though. Don't lose your reputation. It's very important because sometimes what happens is it can become very sad if somebody loses their reputation. Because if they lose their reputation, then it's very difficult to come back. So, somewhere there is that fear always that if you become part of a lost gang, if you would, then nobody cares about you. So yeah, it's a bit of a, you have to balance here. When you feel you can handle it, yeah, you become an entrepreneur. Because trust me, everybody says, we love entrepreneurs, we love people who failed and all this kind of stuff. You get 2-3 failures, then many people don't look towards you. वो बोलते ना जूतों का हार बहुत जल्दी इकट्ठा नहीं करना चाहिए. एक जूता लग जाए बहुत है. I don't know, I don't know the answer. Maybe it is somebody says that I failed 5 times, then I succeed. But yeah, I don't know. But especially me, who's not been an entrepreneur at heart, I don't want to give wrong advice. Don't become an entrepreneur for becoming an entrepreneur's sake. When you have something to do, then do it. Is all I would say. But if you don't know what to do, then go and join an organization. Be part of that for a few years. Maybe you will learn something to do.
Sir, a lot of students, including me, have this question in mind, like, what is the role of an MBA? And like, if you could elaborate that, what were your experiences while doing an MBA and how has it helped you? So while making a decision, how can we make a wise decision for our lives?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, especially coming from somebody who's done 2 MBAs. You don't, after graduation, you're not going to learn something very different from education, is my opinion. We are as a population, we are overeducated. Karna hai kar lo. Maybe somebody else will value it. Maybe you will also value it. Maybe you'll learn a few things. But there's nothing in the MBA that you broadly couldn't have learned while you were at engineering. And some of the most successful people I have seen never went beyond engineering. They never did a business school or anything of that sort. I think end of engineering is a good time. Like if I was advising my son, I would say it's a good time to, if he wants to do something in electrical vehicles, I'd say get on with it about then. I don't think an MBA will add any value to it. To me, MBA added a lot of value. Right? It added a lot of value because please understand, see, times are never the same. And the situation you get into can sometimes get you, I was earning 3 lakh rupees a year in India. Actually 2.1 lakh or 2.2 lakhs. It was less than my wife, who was 4 years younger, who was an NIFT graduate, was earning. It was about 35% less than her. If I got married, I couldn't afford to have a flat in Bombay where I was working. So I had got my career into a very special place. And it wasn't because I was incapable. I was quite capable. But because of some wrong decisions I made, I had managed to get myself in a very, very special place, right? Financially. And that needed to change because, like broadly speaking, if I look at my batch, I should at that time have been earning maybe 15-20 lakhs. But for whatever my decisions, like I was not a bad student, right? I was like you are. I was the general secretary of the BSA, so I was quite a popular kid. I was also good in academics. Even at IIM, I was good in academics. So I had made some blunders, right? Because of which I had gone into this, and because of my commitments in the job, I had kept doing the same job for 4 years. I had not changed my job because I was committed. I will make it successful right there. Right? Sometimes that can, from a career perspective, work against you.
Right. Because
yes, I was succeeding in that company, but that, in hindsight, it wasn't what I should have been doing. You see what I mean? The reason they were paying me less was because they were getting very little out of it, right? Because otherwise they couldn't afford to pay me more. Right? So I think you have to keep your perspective and sometimes look at that. And so for me, INSEAD was amazing because my sign-on bonus was 20 lakh rupees.
Wow.
Right? So it was amazing. Plus I got the international exposure. If you see the difference between the two, it kind of took me to a different orbit in my career. Now, did I learn anything different? I was the same person. I was the same person earning 3 lakh rupees or 2 lakh rupees, and I was the same person earning 80 lakh rupees or 1 crore rupees. But the world started seeing me differently. Now, sometimes you have to work to make the world see you differently also.
Right.
Now, was that my only goal? Clearly not. Because if that was the goal, I wouldn't have been at 2.5 lakhs in the first place, right? To make more money. But so everybody's situation is different. But for me, it helped a lot. The second MBA helped a lot. The first one got me deeper into the ground. I would have been better not doing it, which was IIM Ahmedabad, right? I would perhaps have been better not doing it because it didn't add much from a career perspective or from any other perspective. the international experience that INSEAD gave me was phenomenal. Like, suddenly you knew why Spain is different from Italy and Germany and what are the kind of people, and you had friends all over the place. You could do businesses in Europe. Suddenly you were in a very beautiful spot. So yeah, I would say everybody has to make their own calls here. But from an education perspective, no, not much.
Right. So what according to you is the importance of financial education? And considering that this is something which is not taught in our schools or colleges, so what are your comments on that?
Yeah, you have to build an awareness of financial literacy. You have to build, and I don't know why we as a society shun from it. Children have to learn, how to handle money. It's a very important thing. Money is not a bad word. One of the reasons is because I came from the army. For me, money was almost a bad word, if you ask me honestly. Like, basically the whole background has been army, right? So we used to in our family look at business people as frauds, as cheats, as thugs, right? So, and that's the ethos in a lot of India, right? So we used to see them as slimy, etc., etc. But that's not how it is. They're adding a huge amount of value. And I think talking about money is important. We used to never talk about money. But it's very important that children talk about money. I talk to my children quite a bit because they have to understand it's first of all hard to make. It is important to make. Because if you don't have money, how do you, the other day I was talking to Sanjeev, he's one of the biggest donors to Ashoka University. How would he donate if he didn't have the money? Right? How would Bill Gates do what he's doing if he didn't have the money? So to do anything good, also you need money. You can't do it without money, right? So I think people need to be educated about it. And an MBA doesn't necessarily bring it for you. Because even after my Ahmedabad, I was still of the same mindset. It was almost like we should never do anything for money. We should always, and even now, a lot of that is still in me. But money is not a bad thing. And I think people should be discussing these things at home. At dining tables, we discuss a lot of other things. And I think we have a very high emphasis on exams and, various things. That's the biggest thing that INSEAD changed. I'll tell you what changed me. So I went to INSEAD and, I had a decent GPA at IIT, a decent GPA at Ahmedabad. And so I came there thinking, yeah, all these other guys are idiots. I'm the only smart one. I'm going to get a 4.0 and that's going to be great. And in the first term, that's exactly what happened, right? I had the highest grade point average at campus. And I think by the end of the year also, I had the highest grade point average in my class at INSEAD. But then I realized one thing. I said, yaar, hum log kehte hain ki we are the brightest and all that stuff. Then ye Ferrari Italy mein kyun bani? Ye Ferrari India mein kyun nahi bani? Right? Or why are the French able to make the best yachts? Why are we not able to sense कि जब हम ये yacht पे बैठेगा तो ये yacht जब sea की waves घूमेगी तो it shouldn't lose its balance at all. A person should be able to sleep in the sea. You realize some of the yachts you can sleep on them in the sea.
Right.
That's very important to some people, and that is where the value comes in. Right. My point is, why were we not able to see all that? Is it just a stage of the economy, or is it because these economies haven't been here forever? Right? My point is, there's a lot of innovation happening in Europe. There's a lot of brilliance in Europe also. And it gave me that perspective to appreciate the practicality of life. That, how do people think differently? How do they think practically? And how do they create that immense value, right? For their organizations, for themselves, for their countries. How does LVMH become LVMH? Right? LVMH is Louis Vuitton, right? So how do they, why do we sell Haldi and Basmati without the kind of branding that they are able to do for grapes? Right? I think all of these were very practical pieces which one can miss because one is too focused on our mathematical intelligence, which increasingly is going to the calculators. So I think that balance is required in the Indian society. I feel, and especially for a lot of us, who come from those families where we've been kind of taught how to crack exams and kind of really work hard for them and all that stuff, which is essential. But yeah, and it gives its own strengths. But yeah.
Right. All right, sir. We are towards the last segment of this session, and I would like to talk a bit about your IIT life. So, as you were the General Secretary of BSA, so could you share some of your experiences being at such a position, and like what were your learnings from that?
I think having responsibility in any space brings out the best in you, because suddenly the success or failure of that event lies with you. And you may think there is an institution, but today Tushar Bansal is in this position, so he's carrying out this particular function. If somebody else was in his position, he may not have done it at all. Right? And I think people matter a lot. So I learned that if you put in a little bit of extra effort, like we used to every year have the sports festival. It's, in those times it was barely an event. But in our time, and the budget at that time used to be about 1.5 lakh rupees from the institution, which is a big enough budget. But we went and raised money from 3-4 places, right? And we had a lot of capital. We actually raised more than the rendezvous that year for the Sport Fest.
That's great.
Because that is where I realized somewhere that I had business in my blood somehow. Because a similar thing happened at Ahmedabad also, right? Where I took part in something and I realized that I had been able to put together something very quickly. We did a beautiful job, and those companies also benefited. They had their ads everywhere, and we could afford to get more participants. So a lot of Delhi University participated. I don't know how it is these days, but there was serious responsibility, and then getting all the women from Delhi University back to their colleges, the buses, organizing all that stuff, the safety. I think a lot of responsibility gets thrown on you, which you don't realize you're taking on, and that teaches you a lot of things here. So I think overall a very positive experience, and I really look back at my days in IIT, and I think they were wonderful.
Right. And sir, how was your hostel life? Like, what all activities apart from sports were you involved in?
Yeah, I was mostly in sports only. So cultural वगैरह में बहुत कम था मैं. And I was mostly a fun-loving person. We used to, I don't know if you still have that. We used to have points for getting rooms and all that stuff, and wings had to have points. So we used to take great pride in having the highest points every time and getting the best wing and making sure we were the bosses all the time. So that is how, and I remember, I was a fairly straightforward person. So I think, I really enjoyed it, and our batchmates were amazing people. And to be brutally honest, one of the reasons we have Policy Bazaar is because InfoEdge helped us. And InfoEdge is Hitesh. And Hitesh, so people have a certain view of you back from college, of what kind of a person you are.
Right.
And they see certain characteristics which they are willing to back into the future. So I think campus life is not just amazing, but it's a great place to build relationships which will last a lifetime.
Right.
So all my friends are still friends. We stay in touch regularly, in various ways. We get together once in a while, and we have somewhat different interests. But yeah.
Right, sir. Sir, so this is going to be the last question from my side. What is your final piece of advice to all the students who are watching you right now?
build a very heightened sense of self-awareness and world awareness. The world is changing much faster than ever before. See, I believe some of us, although I'm not yet even 50, but a lot of us are unable to even advise because the future is moving so fast. So basically, make sure you own the future. Make sure you don't lose the future. Make sure you own it. You know, I think it's a very powerful time for all of you. For my children, for all of you, it's a fantastic time. You know, what I said about Italy making the Ferraris, ho gaya yaar. Now let's get down to making the Ferraris. Now it's time. This has to be India's moment. So, and that's not to say the other nations are not great or I'm very nationalistic or anything. No, I'm not. I'm just, yes, I am, but that's not what I want to build into people. What I want to build is own the future. Don't be afraid of the future. Own the future. It is yours to take. And, just do it. It's that simple.
Right, sir. So, all right, sir. I think it has been a great session, and I really enjoyed talking to you. And I hope that you must also have enjoyed this session. So, sir, any comments from your side? Any final words?
No, I'm perfectly fine. You're not a relative of Vipul Bansal by any chance?
Sorry?
You're not related to a guy called Vipul Bansal by any chance?
No, sir.
No. Vipul Bansal was one batch our junior.
Okay.
He was the BSW, GenSec that time.
All right.
Just sharing.
Okay, but actually it's like we are usually able to keep a track of only like 2 to 3 years seniors of ours.
No, I know. That is ages.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, sir, I mean, thank you so much, sir, for taking out time to talk to us.
You're most welcome. Have a great day. All right.
You too, sir. Thank you. Bye, sir. Bye.